Everyone. Thanks everyone for coming along to the webinar this morning on powerful proposals. So this is the final webinar in the Month of Marketing series, and this one is hosted by the Revolutionary Firm. So we've got Steve Major on this morning to present this one. So I'll just let you know, for those who missed it just a minute ago, there is some handouts in the handouts control panel. You'll receive a copy of the slides and also a free resource to help you implement this in your firm. You'll also receive a copy of the recording via email, or you can find it on our YouTube channel afterwards. If you have any troubles with sound or anything at all, pop your questions into the questions window. And we'll also be running a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So all your questions, pop them into that questions box and Steve will get to them at the end. So thanks for coming along, Steve. I will mention Steve is my dad.
Yeah, morning Anthea. So Anthea's with BizInc, I'm with the Rev Firm. So this month of marketing's excellent. We've got the two streams, and as Anthea said, this is the last one, and we're coming to the end of September. So it's now about the previous ones that we have done have been about the pricing and design, packaging your services, and those sort of aspects. Some of the BizInc ones have been around, building that marketing presence and attracting those ideal clients. So now this is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. You've been able to, through the marketing activities, attract the ideal client. You've had the value conversation, which went through in an earlier webinar. You've understood what is going on. You've designed your packages and solutions, and now you've got to put a proposal in front of the customer. So this is where we get to that nitty-gritty, sometimes uncomfortable stuff. But before going, as Anthea said, Revolutionary Firm, that's a combination of Mel Power and myself that's behind this, helping accountants and bookkeepers create revolutionary firms. And a revolutionary firm is one that is really transforming small business and doing it in such a way to deliver freedom and impact to yourselves and also to your clients. Before I go on, Anthea mentioned about the questions. Please put them in as we go. If it's appropriate, I'll try to deal with it as we go through the content, but as also Anthea mentioned, we'll do answer all of the questions at the end as well. So please, as you think of them, put them in the question box. Quickly, what we'll cover today is what is a powerful proposal, some of the mistakes. We'll go through the 9 elements, and then importantly, how to present proposals. So it's not just a case of putting a nice design together, but it's actually also how to actually put that in front of the customer. So a term that I like to use, I've used all the way through our month of marketing, is that pricing power is the ability to command the price you deserve for the value you create. Now, there's an important aspect here for the value you create, and what we're going to be doing in the proposal is extending the invitation for people to be able to get that value you are creating, and importantly, of course, you're being able to show them the price or the investment required to do that. So pricing extends all the way through to actually how we're putting this proposal, how we're designing it, how we're putting it in front of the client. So a powerful proposal. It's not, if anybody who does know me, I'm not the most creative, artistic person, so it's not necessarily that it's the most beautifully designed proposal. That's not what a powerful proposal is about, though there are some great resources to help on that regard. What it's about, though, is hitting some really key elements that are necessary to ensure that you are going to cover off of what are some of the things that a potential customer is thinking about when you are extending that invitation to utilize your services. So there are some key aspects that we must go through and cover off in a proposal that will make it powerful, that will stand out, that it won't just look like anything else, not in a physical sense, but in the sense of covering the key issues that the people are thinking and feeling. So let's deal with some of the mistakes. So the first mistake is oftentimes the proposal is used to sell. Now you might go, hang on a minute, isn't that the whole purpose? The reality is that we must have had the value conversation prior to. So really what the proposal is the presentation of what the value that we're going to be able to deliver. So sometimes it's looked at as purely a sales tool, when in reality it's an invitation tool. Sometimes the proposal is utilised by some people where they're in essence still making it about the exploration of different aspects. The proposal needs to be very clear that you've scoped out the work, you know exactly what the situation is, you know exactly what is going on in their business, and you know exactly how you can help. There is no more exploration. That has been done. Sometimes the proposals are too vague and or too technical. Now we appreciate that there needs to be some technical aspects. Oftentimes that's best done in the annexure or attachments, and we understand that there does need to be some of that technical stuff created. Oftentimes that can be either dealt with in an annexure or with the engagement letter that we then do. The vagueness aspect, we've got to be crystal clear of exactly what we are proposing and what the investment is required, and we'll talk about some other aspects that we need to be very clear about as well. But anybody seeing the presentation of the proposal must be in no doubt as to what is being presented. Sometimes we see that proposals are just all about protecting you. And obviously we need to have terms and conditions, again, attachments, etc. But it's not solely about protecting you. It's about showing the value that you can deliver to them. We appreciate that we do need T's and C's, but that's not what all the proposal's about. That's a very minor point. The other mistake, and you would have, for those who have been on the previous Month of Marketing webinars, you would have potentially seen where we're talking about options. And I'm making an assumption for today that you are presenting 3 options. And the worst thing that I often see in proposals is that they just make it a yes or no question. In other words, everything or nothing. Really, a proposal is which option suits me best. So they are some of the most common mistakes that happen with proposals, and there are 4 overarching aspects of what a proposal must cover, because the best business proposal wins. If anybody's ever looked at the work of Oren Klaff, K-L-A-F-F, he raises multi-million dollars of investment or venture capital funds in the US, and he's putting proposals in front of people. And he talks about how that covering the elements of a proposal, the best business proposal wins. I would, as a resource, have a look at some of the work of Oren Klaff. Totally different sector, I appreciate, to accountants and bookkeepers, but we're all hardwired, we're all business people, and we are all looking at this with the same line of thinking. So these overarching things is what we need to think about. These, shall we say, 4 aspects of what a proposal must cover on. And yes, we're accountants and bookkeepers, and you're probably looking at it and going, you know, head and heart, what are you talking about, Steve? This is just about logic work. No, it's actually, we've got to make certain that the client understands that there is an energy to bring it to life. It can't be just the dullest thing known. That's why it's not, you know, all technical and all T's and C's. That's not exactly very inspiring. But also, we need to show them how we need to connect with them and how sharing the load of how we are going to be able to do that and give that outcome that they're after. We look at the bottom left there, the method. We talk about how this is going to happen. It's joining the dots. It's making it clear to them that they know exactly what you're going to do and then what the outcome are. And then the top left is about in essence, we're showing what the future is. We're painting a picture of what is possible. Too often we just go for the pure technical. We go for the pure list of a long list of items in a proposal, and we don't cover all of these 4 aspects. And yet the best proposal must cover all 4 aspects. Because a proposal is really answering this question that the client has, the customer has in their mind as they're sitting across the table or across Skype or whatever it might be. Do I want to work with you? Do I really want to work with you? That's the question that's on their mind. Have you built the level of trust, demonstrated the value that they will say yes to working with you in this manner? So it's important then, and I know we did a whole presentation on the value conversation, that we really understand what is of value and we understand what is the value that we are delivering. So for those of you who missed that, please go back to the recordings on Month of Marketing, and you'll see that the whole aspect of having a value conversation. You can't put a proposal together if you do not understand the value that the client is after and the value of what you can deliver. So that what pain points are you solving and what aspects are you helping them with that it's really relevant. It's not just about us having a set of solutions and putting that in front of a client. It's about connecting it with what is of importance to that customer. So it all starts with having that value conversation and making certain you're understanding the customer. I can't go into any more detail really on that, but please go reference that previous webinar we did on that very topic, the value conversation. So now let's have a look at the 9 elements of powerful proposals. These are the 9 things that we must cover in our proposal. I use the word must because I believe we can't miss any one of these 9. Some of them are obvious, some of them are a bit of work. So there's really like 3 lines, 3 areas that these 9 elements can be broken down into, and that's capture, package, deliver. So firstly, it's about capturing the situation. Next, it's about showing the packages that we have, and then finally, how that will be delivered. So let's get into these 9 elements. So the first one is that we summarize the situation. It might seem like stating the obvious. The client already knows and we already know, but in a proposal, state the obvious. Summarize what is the situation. We've had the value conversation. We understand what are the pain points. We understand what success looks like for the client. Bullet point, summarize that. It doesn't have to be wordy paragraphs on end. It can be 3 or 4 bullet points could summarize the situation, but it clearly shows that we understand. We then need to detail what are the objectives. Is this a proposal for 12 months of work? What are the objectives over that 12 months? There'll be some deliverables, but what's the overarching objectives that is trying to be achieved? We would have had that conversation in the value conversation, and now we're detailing it further about the objectives of what is going to happen. It's clear that we know where we're going. It's that painting the picture of the future. We also need to cover responsibilities. So some things might be totally in our control as the service provider, but some things will be definitely in the customer's control. And we need to be clear as to who will be responsible for what. And it might be that your role in some of the aspects is actually just keeping them accountable, whereas other role is actually the deliverable role. But it needs to spell out exactly who will be doing or who will be responsible for what. So that's the first line is about capturing the current situation and understanding where we're going, what the future is, and being very clear about whose role it will be to deliver what. Now, when I'm talking about responsibilities, I'm not necessarily saying that you put the person's name of the team member will be doing X or Y. It's that your business name will be responsible for delivery on certain aspects, but also importantly, their team will be responsible for certain getting information to you, etc., etc. Being very clear. So they are the first three. Let's get to the next three. So the assumption I make, and the previous webinar on packaging your services would have been very clear about that you must present three options. There is no choice. If you want to have a successful accounting and bookkeeping business, present three options. Now, you may have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 options behind the scenes, and you've customized those options based on the value conversation, but you're presenting 3 options to your client. So now when we're thinking about presenting that, we must think about what's the scope of value. What's the overarching value that will be delivered by these packages of services? This is where it really is not the easiest part of this proposal, is because we never normally think about this. We think about the next one, the scope of work. And obviously we need to detail that there'll be a monthly meeting, we'll be preparing performance reports, we'll be preparing measuring what matter KPIs, we'll be doing the core accounting or bookkeeping service. There's all of that aspect that is in the scope of work. It might be that some of the scope of work is in education or training them on certain aspects of understanding the numbers or on the technology. All of that scope of work. But what about that first one, the scope of value? What will be the observable impacts that will happen because of your packages? What will be the value that is being delivered? Now, scope of value doesn't have to be specific dollars. It's more about the words that you use about the value that is being created and will be delivered. Remember, people are buying value. So we need to talk about it. Obviously, scope of work. Now, there's 2 layers of scope of work. There's the summary layer that's in the body of the proposal, and then there might be the detailed layer that you put as an annexure, or alternatively as in the engagement letter. It's important that we have detailed out the scope, but I would not have the super long detail of, you know, the bookkeeper will do the payroll, do this, and list every last item that they do in the body of the proposal. That's the attachment. That's the vague or technical stuff. That's the stuff our clients don't understand. Right? The scope of work is a summary viewpoint of what will be done. The detail will be found elsewhere. And then importantly, of course, we must show the price or the investment for each option. So this is where these 3 are where we're presenting the packages. Now, scope of value might be just the overarching, and you don't distinguish the value. You talk about it just for your platinum package, and that is okay. I've seen good examples of both where they scope out the value for each package, but I've also seen, and probably the more common, is where scope of value just talks about the overall value of the relationship and is predicated on the platinum package. And that's fine, because then when we get to presenting, we'll talk about an important aspect of how then you can really highlight that point. So these are the next 3 that are of the 9 elements that we must cover in a powerful proposal. Now we get into the delivery aspect. This one measures. How does the client measure success? How will they know that you've delivered value? What measures are you willing to be held to know that value has been delivered? there's obviously some key deliverables that we'll be doing as accountants and bookkeepers, but what else? What other measures of success can we put down in this aspect? And they don't necessarily have to be the most technical measures that us accountants and bookkeepers love to do. It might be expressed, well, it probably is expressed in the client's language, and therefore is not necessarily a metric that we pull off a P&L, but rather it is how they view success. How will they know that you've delivered? Terms. Now, I am not meaning here the legalistic terms and conditions. Obviously, we need that at some point as an annexure, etc. What I'm talking about here is if, for instance, at price we've talked about that, you know, it might be because there's some cleanup work or whatever, it's $5,000 up front and then $1,000 a month. But we could, under terms, you know, we could talk about that it'll be periodic debit from bank account, but also we could give them the option of prepaying the whole 12 months with an appropriate discount to reflect that. So this is where we cover some of the summary, shall we say, or overall terms of our package. So that's the terms in price, and it could be the terms on the measures. So if you do this, we'll do that. You know, what are the terms? I'm not talking about the legalistic T's and C's, which I appreciate that we do need in the world of contracts. And then finally, guarantee. Now, most accountants and bookkeepers, when they hear me say guarantee, shudder, because they're expecting me to say you're guaranteeing a certain profit or a certain tax saving or a certain cash flow. No, what I'm actually saying is a value guarantee. A guarantee that if any time that they don't feel that they've got value, then you will, you know, recompense them the last month or some consequence. Now, the reality is, just stop and think about it for a minute. You're already giving the guarantee, you're just not telling them. So if a client rings up and complains and goes, look, you know, there's been some issues this month or last month, and you know, this and that happened, and I'm not happy. I know that 9 out of 10 people, probably 10 out of 10 people that are on this call will say and do whatever they can to fix the situation. That's a guarantee. So why not actually put it in your proposal and get the kudos for doing so? And this is not a guarantee around that you'll deliver them $100,000 extra profit. It's a guarantee around that they will feel that they've got great value. And more often than not, value is not a number. Value is how we feel about it, that we've got great advice, that they've been accessible, etc. So the important thing is the guarantee can be like that ceiling of the deal. It knows that we're going to deliver. It demonstrates that we're going to deliver, that we're willing to stand behind what we're talking about. So these are the 9 elements that come together of for the package. Sorry, I'm just having slide issues. But the point is that each of these 9 can be really powerful because they're hitting all of those 4 aspects that we talked about earlier, about that we're showing how we're connecting the dots of what's going to happen. We are painting a picture of the future. We're bringing it to life. It's not just about technical stuff. It's also, we're talking about the value. And we're talking about the sharing of the load. It's about the responsibilities that each will do, and that you are taking the responsibility to cover. So just talking about scope of value a little further. It's what are the outcomes that will happen. Now, this list that you'll see on screen is by no means anything detailed, what I'm trying to show is that we just need to think of the outcomes of, you know, what business outcomes. Maybe it's that they'll have better marketing. If you can help analyze and help them with, for argument's sake, their pricing, you know, they might be able to get certain business outcomes. It might be their end customer. It might be their internal systems. So think, when we're thinking of scope of value, think outcomes. What outcomes will be delivered? Because, and some of those outcomes may be not dollars and cents, maybe that they have a better managed business. Maybe it's that they have a business that they have more freedom from. So when we're thinking of scope of value, think in terms of outcomes, not in terms of we're doing X and Y and Z. It's actually, these are the things that happen as a result of working with us. Scope of work. Please do not go for the lengthy detail of every last thing in the proposal. There's a place for that. It's in the annexure, it's in the engagement letter. The scope of work is a summary document only. Price. Be very specific and clear and upfront about price. Put everything there. And in thinking of price, use deposits or use a certain amount of upfront. Remember, this is where the proposal is for an engagement. It might be an ongoing engagement that stays in place until mutually agreed, or it might be 12 months and we'll automatically review it at every 12 months. It might be a much shorter engagement, depending upon the your customer situation, but make certain you're very clear about every element of price. Measures of success. It's really key that we are communicating how the client will know that things have been done and delivered accordingly. Don't make an assumption on that regard. I've talked about terms. I just want to guarantees. I just want to come back to this key point. A guarantee, as I said earlier, you're already doing it, is a phenomenal way to build further the trust, that relationship that you have with the potential customer. You've taken the time to understand their worldview. That's built up a significant level of trust. But the guarantee is like seals it. Now, Adam's asked the question about, do you have a specific guarantee, such as a dollar amount refund or etc. Remember, it's a value guarantee. So if at any point on time they don't feel that they've got value, then the consequence. Now, I think most people now with their packages will be have some sort of monthly component, and I would say that the refund is of last month's. However, if it is a much shorter engagement and it's not monthly, it's either priced 50% up front and 50% on completion, which I sort of don't really like. I prefer to have some progress in there, and not much afterwards. Then you might specify a certain figure, or you might specify you don't have to pay the balance payment, words like that. The reality is maybe 1 in 500 people will exercise the guarantee. The vast majority of time is the fact that it's there, that you're willing to put it in writing, that it's a value guarantee, and it's not a guarantee of profit or whatever. And when we get to the presenting of it, you explain that it is a value guarantee. The risk that somebody exercises it is very rare. And if they were going to, anyhow, they would have, even without your guarantee in place. We've all had situations, I'm sure, where a client hasn't paid because they're unhappy, and that's led to various action. It would be the same. So put it in there. The risk is incredibly low, but the kudos is very high. So it's all about extending the invitation. If we think of it in that mindset, this is not a sales document, but rather extension of the invitation to gain commitment. That's the purpose of this proposal, is that we're inviting them to utilize one of our packages or services, and now we want them to commit to whatever our terms are, monthly for the next 12 months, etc., whatever it might be. So let's talk about presenting this proposal. So firstly, it's present, not email. It's present, not email. Now, I don't care how you present it, but you must present this proposal. We're dealing with the financial well-being of business clients. Majority of people, I'm sure, here are dealing with the business clients. There might be some that are dealing with individuals. And we are asking them to commit to us a certain level of intimacy as a result. And there's obviously often a significant investment. We don't email that. We present it so that we can extend the invitation, so we can demonstrate the value. And when we are presenting it, we start talking about our top package first. Not our bottom one and go up. We start talking about our top package. Now, you'll remember I was talking about scope of value. This is where we can then start talking about the value of that top package. And we can talk about, yes, what's included in that top package, and the value of delivering and what outcomes will happen from the top package. When we're creating packages, if you're a tech company selling something online, then you want people to buy the middle option. But we're in the relationship business, which is one of the other reasons why we must present the proposal. We want people to commit to the top package because that's the best value. So present from the top. Now, when we are presenting, don't negotiate with yourself. You are presenting the proposal. You've gone through all of the proposal, all those 9 elements that we've talked about, and you've started, when you've got to the packages, you've started at the top package, and you've told them the price. Once you've told them the price and gone through all of the proposal, you keep quiet. Don't negotiate with yourself. I have seen a situation where a person, I happened to be in the room and I couldn't stop it, where a person presented a proposal. This was a very large proposal. The potential customer had not actually said a word, hadn't replied at all, but there'd been a silence. And I'm sure the person who was presenting the proposal was thinking the silence was going on for a long time. But remember, we're presenting a proposal of significant investment and relationship. People have got to think about it. And the person who was presenting the proposal, even though the recipient had not said a word, suddenly dropped the price. In essence, they negotiated with themselves. Don't add things or drop prices or whatever without first hearing what the client or prospective client is even going to say. And even if they do say it, remember that you've had the value conversation, that you've gone through and understood what is of importance to them. And if you've done that properly, then those packages will have been customized to suit that people, and you need to be firm in the value you're delivering. So don't negotiate with yourself when you're presenting this proposal. So proposals are incredibly powerful. done right, making certain that we cover all of these 9 elements. They're not something to be sped through. I see a little tendency out there that we want to make this front end really, really efficient. I think what we need to be thinking about is making it very, very effective. We want to achieve a high price. We want to command the price that we deserve for the value we create. Therefore, we need to slow this process down. We need to take time and make certain that we understand the relationship, that we're extending the invitation, and then we can gain the commitment. So proposals are not something to be looked at as how is the most efficient. It doesn't mean that we mightn't use technology. The point is that it's something that we've got to remember, that we are in a relationship business. And accordingly, we are focusing on the value we create, and we're extending the invitation for them to choose how they want to work with us. That's when we have a powerful proposal, and one where we're willing to detail how success will be measured, and that we're willing to put our name to a guarantee around it. That's when we have a powerful proposal. So I just want to quickly talk about the Revolutionary Firm program, where we go into a whole host of this. We help you put these sort of things together amongst all of the pricing, etc. It's all about helping accountants and bookkeepers move from just providing information and way beyond just helping clients understand the numbers, but actually transforming small business, because that's where the profit and freedom really lies. So that's our overarching objective in the Revolutionary Firm. If you want to find out more, go to therevolutionaryfirm.com/program, and you can book a time to have a chat with us there. It'll detail a little bit of the program, but we will then we will present to you the full exact nature of the program, how it works, and obviously how we measure success. So importantly, book a time and have a chat to us there about the program, because it's all about delivering freedom and impact to our clients. And in the Rev Firm, we want revolutionary firms that the owners are getting that and are also delivering that to their clients. So questions now, people. I'd love to hear from you. As I said, the revolutionaryfirm.com/program. Also, there are various prizes. We've just got a couple of days left for the month of marketing, so go to monthofmarketing.com/prizes to find out more. So thank you, everybody. And Anthea, I'm sure there's some questions there now.
Yeah, so we've had some questions come through, but if anybody has any more, please pop them into the questions box. So the first question is from Jess. How soon after you present a proposal should you follow up?
Excellent question. I should have covered that in the content. But so we appreciate that we're putting a proposal in front of people and we're extending the invitation, and it is a significant investment and a significant relationship. So we're not necessarily expecting people to make a decision on the spot. Some will, but it's not uncommon and it's appropriate that people will need to think about it. So there will need to be the follow-up. But take control of the follow-up. You appreciate that they need to think about it, and we're here on Thursday, Australia right now, and say you've presented a proposal to a person and you say, well, you know, I appreciate you need some time to think about it. Would it be okay if we touched base on Tuesday and specify a time, a date and a time? Makes it, you know, you clear it with the prospective customer, but take control of the follow-up. Now, I think the question was how long? Not very long, only a few days. But make certain you take control of the process. Don't leave it for 2 or 3 weeks. Make certain you can Yeah, unless they're hopping on a plane and going on holidays or something, but on the normal course of business, make it 3 or 4 days sort of time frame, but make certain that you take control of that follow-up.
So we've got another question from Andrew. You mentioned earlier on one of the mistakes with proposals is using them to sell, but isn't that the whole point of this, the whole purpose of proposals?
Yeah. So in a way, yes, but the reality, what I'm trying to say there is too often we go in, or I've seen it too often, that we just go in, we want to present our package. Sometimes, unfortunately, when people are using it as a sales tool, they just present one package. They're not going through the whole, all of the 9 elements that we detailed earlier and are demonstrating value. And I think it's a mindset. If we just look at it as a sales thing as opposed to an extension of an invitation, it's a mindset of how we go into that meeting. And I think that's the key point that I'm trying to say, is that go all the way back to that definition of pricing power, ability to command the price for the value you create. If you are absolutely confident and certain of the value that you create, then it's an extension of an invitation. It is not the sale with the appropriate 52 closes and all the, the car salesman hype. This is about the extension of the value conversation and demonstrating the value we can deliver and inviting them to choose which way they want to work with us.
So in presenting proposals, in person or over technology, which is best?
Probably depends is the answer to that question. Probably in person is better than over technology. However, I appreciate that there's quite a number of, or there would be quite a number of virtual firms that are online now, and there's some really, really good examples of firms that are absolutely nailing this using technology. Live CA in Canada, they have a 3-meeting process. The onboarding process that we talked earlier about in the earlier webinars, where there's a value conversation, then there's the demonstration phase, and then there's the proposal. It's all done using technology. Now, importantly, with technology, we can have webcams. Obviously, we're not using them today for our webinar, but we can utilize webcams. When I was presenting a proposal, I would use a webcam. Ideal world is if the person on the other end also has a webcam as well. It just makes it a little bit more relationship based. Face-to-face, if that suits your business, sit over a coffee somewhere and go through the proposal is definitely very powerful. The key point, I think, really is present. Don't just email. I appreciate after the presentation, you will probably email the proposal so that they've got it for to reference while they're thinking about it. That's obviously okay, but that's after you've presented it.
So we have a question from Florence. Is it appropriate to quote a price range as opposed to an estimate or exact figure?
It must be an exact figure. Let me explain further though. Florence, if you missed the value conversation webinar, please, I really think it might be of value to go back and have a look at that, no pun intended. The reason why is I think it's really, really important when we're packaging up our services and then putting it in a proposal that we've taken the time to scope the job properly. And if we've scoped the job properly, then we can give them an exact price. Now remember, I appreciate there are some difficult circumstances sometimes in jobs where we literally don't know. And therefore it might be appropriate that what happens is we go, well, part A we can scope and we can give a fixed price. But we don't know really what part B will look like until we get to that point when part A is finished. So in the proposal, we're talking about part A. Now what we might cover therefore is, look, part B is going to happen. I would not give an estimate of price range. You go, but until we get Part A done, we're not going to be able to price Part B. And therefore, we have a look at Part B and we give a new proposal when that happens. So work with lawyers as well, and obviously those in litigation have that scenario. There are things that are always going to happen in any litigation. Then there are things that really we just don't know until you get to the courtroom and what happens there. And then there are things that can happen at total left field. We work with lawyers to help them price and give fixed price and value prices based on that. And basically you price each stage as each stage becomes clearer. So hopefully that helps, but please take the time to scope the job up front.
So Sue's asking, how do you deal with objections?
So there will always have the potential for us to get objections. Even going through all of those 9 elements, we will still have the situation where people will have some form of objection. I think there's levels of objections, though, to think about. So sometimes people will go, is that the best price you can do? And they do it with everybody. But it's not actually that they have a problem with the price. They just know that most people will react and reduce their price. So you need to be firm on price. If you have taken the time to scope the job and understand the value you're going to create, then you need to be firm on price. And also, if you're willing to bend on price, then you've actually decreased the level of respect. So the price objections, be very, very careful about. Oftentimes, there are just people who are normally in the habit of asking for a discount. They're not really objecting to the price. Now, other objections might be timing, might be a whole host of things. Just try to go back and uncover what really is going on behind that objection. Ask them, can you please just detail a little further what is the problem here, or what is the issue you're concerned about? Drill down, because you might find that there's something that is only uncovered now, and you may need to do a new proposal. That's the extreme, but you might find by drilling down you get to the real nub of the issue, and then you're going to be able to answer that question. I appreciate objections. We could go on all day, but really drill down. Don't accept at first instance the objection. There usually is something behind it, and we need to understand what that is, and then we can answer that.
So I've got another question here from Rachel. Do we have to do these proposals using software?
No, you don't have to do these proposals using software. It really probably depends on your size of business, how many proposals that you're doing each week or each month or whatever, each quarter. Now, obviously, as I said earlier, joked, and Anthea is not allowed to respond, I'm not the most creative design person around. I am an accountant by profession, and as a designer, I'm a good accountant. So I appreciate some of these proposal softwares like PandaDoc and others are really good to make them look very professional and very presentable. But look, if you've got the appropriate team member, you can do really nice proposals in Word, or if you're a Mac, Pages. You can use tools like Canva to help them look better as well. So Canva's a free tool. So no, you don't have to use software like PandaDoc or others. Obviously, it does make them look professional, but I just go back to the first point I made. It depends how many you're using. If you're only doing one a month, I'd go, look, get somebody to do up a nice template for you in Word or Pages, and that will be more than adequate. If you're doing one a week, well, then maybe the cost of software is justified.
We've got a couple more questions, but if anybody has any more, send them through. Joe's asking, you mentioned scope of value earlier on in the webinar. What format for that works best?
Yes, fantastic. So packages are always in the table. So when we detail out our proposal, always put them in a table. But scope of value doesn't have to be. Often I find that the best scope of values are either two ways. And I'll say the most common, and then I'll say one that I really, really like, but it's not always the easiest. So often it's just words, but put in bullet points so it's clear, easy to read, and when we present it, it's easy to present. And it might only be 4 or 5, 3 or 4, 6 or 7. It's not many, where we're detailing the value in words, because value is not a number, or not necessarily a number. So often words work the best, and it doesn't have to be detailed in a table or such like that. Now, I have seen value being demonstrated as a graph, as a graphical representation, not necessarily a graph of numbers, but a graph of graphical representation, and that can be very powerful. But appreciate that that is something we do work with people in the Revolutionary Firm, how to demonstrate value. But look, the answer to the question, I'm sorry I can't remember who asked, but is simply words are more than adequate. Bullet points are a good way to do it.
So I think this will be the last question unless any more come in, but question from Kath. We are referring to the value conversation obviously amongst ourselves as the value conversation, but when you're talking to potential clients, what should you call that? Should you just call it a meeting or a demo, a sales meeting, something like that?
Not a sales meeting. Discovery call, discovery session, understanding your business session, anything that they can resonate with. I appreciate the word value conversation is our lingo, but yeah, discovery session is often used. Business health check I've seen, that's a little bit trite, but I appreciate it still representing what we're talking about. So yeah, I mean, it's something that will resonate with them and that they'll understand that it's about understanding their business.
Great. So thanks for answering all those questions. Thanks everyone for sending them in. I think that's just about all the content we have. So we'll just let you know that obviously this is the last week of September, so this is the last week you have the opportunity to go into the draw to win some of those cool prizes. So head to the website on screen, monthofmarketing.com/prizes, and if you book a demo with Biz Inc, you can go in the draw to win a free website and a year's hosting. If you go to one of our marketing appointments, you'll go in the draw to win 12 months worth of blogs written by our content team. And as we mentioned, if you go to the revolutionaryfirm.com/program, you book in for a discovery call, you'll find out more about the Revolutionary Firm program, and you'll go in the draw to win a seat in that 12-month program. So head there, make sure you book in this week, it's your last chance, and next week we'll be announcing the winners. So thanks everyone for coming along today and for coming along to the other month of marketing sessions. If you have any questions or any feedback at all, you can send them through in the questions window, and you will receive an email with the recordings, and we'll let you know if you've won any of those prizes. So thanks again to everyone for coming along. And thanks Steve for coming and hosting these.
Thanks Janelle.
Thanks everyone for the great feedback.
Yeah.
See you later.
See ya.